Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, no word a lie, one of the highlights of this job is getting to support burgeoning Canadian talent. And if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you're in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of industry professionals and we pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in a light and conversational fashion. And, you know, if you like how we do things around here, I'm assuming you do, you can subscribe to the podcast. You could find us over at Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, basically wherever you get your podcasts. And also we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we would really appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to go find us on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram at In the Seats and at It's Podcast One for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I'm repeating myself, but I say it a lot, it's the most important thing. Please come pay us a visit over at intheseats.ca, where, you know, we cover the moving image in general, movies, television, film festivals, video on demand, streaming series. You want it, we got it. And if you love the moving image and you love reading about it and listening about it, we love writing about it and talking about it. So it's a match made in heaven. Stop on by. Well, on this episode, we got a fun one. We got a real good one, actually, because it's we're diving into a movie called See For Me. I had a brain fart. It happens. But it's a really, really fantastic film. And we had the unique pleasure to talk to its director, Randall Okita, because it's the story of a blind woman who's a former skier, Sophie, and she's got a job cat-sitting in a secluded mansion. But that night, three thieves invade the house to find a hidden safe, which is full of God knows what. But and Sophie's only defense is this new app where she is talking to someone on a support line, an Army veteran named Kelly, and Kelly helps Sophie defend herself against these invaders to save her life and outwit them and save the day. And it's a nail biting thriller. It's gonna have you on the edge of your seat. And it's like I said, it's a great film from director Randall Okita, who we got to talk to, and we talked with him about just in terms of casting and finding the right people, because the lead, Skylar Davenport, is visually impaired, so this was representative and accurate and all that sort of stuff. But it's a hell of a film too, and it really adds extra layers, and it's a fantastic ride. I'm rambling a little bit, but it's go check it out on all your favorite VOD platforms. Now it is worth every penny. But first, enjoy our talk with Randall, because between you and me, I think it's a pretty good one.
Obviously, first off, just thank you for the time today, man. I really appreciate this.
That's my absolute pleasure, man. Nice to chat with you.
No, congrats on the movie, man. I got a huge kick out of it. I guess my first question for you is just walk me through sort of the origins of the story, getting this script on your desk and sort of getting the green light.
Yeah, well, I was lucky enough to be sent the script by Tommy Gushu and Adam York. And you know, I instantly was taken by it. I thought it was a really tight, fun, suspenseful thrill ride with some interesting twists and turns on a genre and on a this history of this genre that obviously exists, and then also that there was this element of representation of a differently abled character at the center of it, who was not perfect and who was complex and who isn't afraid to kick some butt. And so I was very, very interested. And, talking to the guys, I know that the initial sort of seed of the idea came from hearing about these apps that exist to connect volunteers with visually impaired people to help, navigate or to help, do day-to-day tasks, and just thinking about these ideas of around assistance and vulnerability and what could happen, in a heightened movie world, or in a worst case scenario as happens. I was for me, the combination of entertaining, thrilling, a fun ride, along with these elements of authenticity and representation. Like, to me, that's checking all my boxes. That's what really gets me excited. That's what gets me up in the morning to take that on and to show people, hopefully, that we can have these kind of important, heart expanding conversations while also having a bunch of fun and eating some popcorn.
For sure, man. No, and I mean, it really does come through in the film. And I mean, I guess that sort of leads into my next question about finding Skylar and making sure that you had somebody who was visually impaired, because I mean, there is that fuck you, don't help me energy that you can't fake to her. It has to be there. And I think that really makes it all that much more effective.
I totally agree, man. I think, thank you for saying that. And I totally agree. Finding the right cast member, to lead your film is always a challenge, and it's always a miracle when you find the person. But I think with all of those added elements, I'm just so grateful that, and I think we were so lucky to find Skylar, who, had this history of performance experience, doing a lot of voiceover for video games and for animated animation. And so I think, Skylar was able to bring all of that experience and just really deliver in their first lead feature role. And I think, like you said, there's certain things you can't fake, and there's certain things that we didn't want to fake. There was, and it was so like, it was interesting. Like, I'm thinking about the conversations that I had with Skylar about the way that they would interact, the way that they felt when they experienced vision loss, in their teens, and also just on set, moving around the house and moving through these scenes, and how much richer that made, my experience, but also how that affected the way we shot and tried to represent how Sophie was moving through the world. To me, these are things you can't fake, and I don't want to, because they just make everything better. They make it more interesting for me. They make it more interesting for the audience. And I think that makes it more entertaining. That makes it more captivating, and a lot more fun.
No, you're absolutely right, man. And I mean, I love that you brought up just how, in terms of how you had to shoot the film, because I mean, essentially half the film's in the dark. For you, how much was of a challenge, or was it to sort of map something like this out? Because I mean, I've got to imagine it's almost like you've got to rehearse a dance as you're going through it all to sort of set up your shots and sort of figure out what you're going. Like, was it a set that you built, or was this an actual house that you found?
This was an actual house that we found after searching far and wide for a place that could fit the mood and play host to this fateful evening. It was this long, windy, very unique house that had this combination of kind of like warm wooden elements and also this kind of cold glass and steel, that sense of isolation. And then, yeah, like you said, I mean, I think of it like a dance. I think of it like music, in terms of, and a really fun puzzle, because you have to show where the bad guys are, where the good guys are. You have to show how close they're coming to running into each other in certain moments. But you have to be able to represent what they know about their geography and let the audience in on a little more knowledge about that geography, so that they can really understand how close some of those calls are. And then include those elements of how Sophie is experiencing those, cat and mouse moments, if we can call them that. And I love that. I love the physicality of the chase and using the geography as a tool, in building suspense.
For sure. No, and I think you did that exceptionally well. And I mean, I think something else that really added to that was just the nature of the Sophie character herself, because I mean, without giving too much away, she has some morally ambiguous moments during the film. And I mean, I'm kind of curious, how important was this for you to not frame this as sort of a good guy, bad guy, but just sort of people dueling in sort of in this darkness, in this life or death situation?
It was very important, and it was very fun, and we had a lot. I mean, it continues in conversations with people who have seen the film. I love having a complex protagonist. I love having, let's call them, layers of ambiguity or transformation and evolution, and some questions, some moments that leave room for conversation after the fact. Certainly, I really, especially, and we talked about this a lot, and like I say, we continue to talk about it, but I really wanted to avoid having a differently abled character who was an angel, and who was just long suffering, at the hands of the rest of the world. I really wanted somebody who, represented something a little bit different than we've seen, and I think Sophie really does that. And then they become sort of full characters that are battling the bad guys, but they're also trying to figure out how they want to battle, shall we say.
For sure. No, I mean, obviously, independent film, you're not going to have a ton of time to shoot, but how important was it to sort of get, I guess, people there in the moment when you're shooting it? Because I mean, it is such an immersive experience that I can imagine it's hard to explain unless you have sort of the actor in the moment to sort of experience what you're trying to do.
100%. So much of this film takes place at night. People are isolated. So it was very much a musical process in terms of building tension and tone and movement, and having that also, like, layers of darkness, and the kind of darkness, I'll say, without giving things away, has to evolve during the course of the movie. There has to still be an evolution in language, and on top of the layer of working with a visually impaired performer during night shoots on a set, which are at the best of times kind of can be dangerous places. Right. And so we really had to think about how our approach to production, and kind of re-examine our routines. And then we had to do that again when the pandemic hit, and think about, how do we engage in this process of doing what we love, of making things for people, while taking care of the people, in this process. And I think that it was challenging, but I think in the end it really helped us kind of like be mindful and be present and look at what we were doing. And then it was just a matter of mapping out, the pieces of the puzzle that we're putting together, and where we are in the story, and where we are in the house. To sort of like get the timing and the tone right of those different moments, and kind of build it like an album.
For sure. And I mean, I think this film really is a great example of the importance of doing stuff in the frame. Because I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it didn't feel like you had a lot of visual effect shots, if any, sort of this. This was all done through light work and cinematography. Can you talk a little bit just in terms of, I guess, the importance of keeping stuff in the frame? Because I mean, at least for me as a fan, sometimes when I would see a film, an independent film or whatnot, it'd be great. And then there would be this one horrible effect shot, which would just completely ruin the movie and completely take you out of it. And thank God you didn't do that. So I love you for that.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate you for noticing. I'm really big on practical as much as possible. I think, it's a version of authenticity like we're talking about, and I think it's worth fighting for. And I think that despite how much an actor or a computer might be able to approximate something, I think that the human brain, the human heart, recognizes things, and they recognize authenticity. And so I really fight for that. And I think that, you have to look at that as an opportunity. The challenge is the opportunity to keep everything in this house, and to
Yeah.
keep everything at night, and to keep to find the extra opportunities that are presented by that. And so I loved trying to fit everything into this really unique puzzle that was this house that we found. And how do we employ the fun language of thrillers that's already pre-established, that's out there, and how do we try to put our spin on it and have it evolve during the course of the film, just using that language, or using our spin on that language, but knowing that that's what we have to work with, and just trying to solve those problems. I mean, the whole process of making film is a lot of problem solving, but that's why I say, if that's the process that we're engaged in, why stop at the moment of authenticity, whether that's
Right.
in casting or getting your shot or your effects, right?
No, I mean, it's a silly question, but it's one I always like to ask. Can you think back to sort of the earlier days? Like, was there a movie or sort of a movie moment for you that flipped the switch that made you want to get into this business?
Yes, many. Well, I can think of many, but I'll tell you a big one. And it was the first time that I went into a video store that had shelves and categories according to a director.
Right.
I was a teenager, and it was the first time that I realized that the same person was behind all of these and all of these. And one of those shelves, a couple of those shelves, I recognized the movies, and I recognized, that I liked a bunch of them. And that made me start to watch the other ones. And, to me, that was the big light bulb moment, because I realized that, there was a sense of authorship, and there was a sense of continuity amongst these different stories, but that somebody was doing something that tied those together, and then I never went back.
Damn, man, you're making me miss video stores right now. I'm telling you, because you're absolutely right.
It's very true, and I mean, we don't know how all of this is gonna go, but I think about this all the time in terms of streaming services and the way that they are categorized, because it has such an influence. I mean, we could go on about this, we won't, but the social element, there was, when you would select those movies, however many you would get, you would still have that social element of a person that you would have to talk to, right?
Yeah.
And you would get to know those people, and there's some kind of influence there, because like some of us, I'm sure you had this, you'd have a relationship there, and somebody would be like, oh, you like this, you should check out this,
exactly.
And like you would have your trusted people that would recommend. Whereas now there's just something very different. I mean, I also think there's, it's not all bad and it's not all good, but there's definitely something different that's happening. I think that, like documentaries, for an example, I think a lot of people wouldn't take the chance on spending the money on a documentary and take that home. They would focus on the release wall and do all that. Whereas now with a lot of the streaming services, that stuff's getting up. Anyways, we could go on, but I also miss the stores as well. I used to work at a Rogers Video in Vancouver that I miss.
Well, I mean, there's still a few left, but I mean, I look forward to the day that you have a shelf of your own somewhere, because I definitely think this is a step in the right direction. But man, congrats on the work, and thanks so much for the time today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Nice chatting with you.
Nice chatting with you, man.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.